In the book of 1 Samuel chapter 17, we see David preparing to fight Goliath. And he gives the king an example as to what qualifies him to be able to fight this giant. He tells him about when a lion came, and when the lion attempted to kill his sheep, he slayed the lion. And then he gives him an example about when a bear came, he went before the bear and he killed the bear. Now, many might ask, what gave David the power to be able to fight these adversaries? Now, what some would suppose is that it was because he was ordained. It was because he was predestined. It was because he was going to be king. I think it was much simpler than that. You understand? David was a worshiper. And because he was a worshiper, he was connected to God. And being connected to God, he had access to God. And when you have access to God, you not only have access to him in worship and in glorification, which is what we are used to, but so far beyond that, you have access into his power. I'd like to give you a story of that. On June 4th, 2006, my wife and I were coming home after a long day of church. Now, unbeknownst unto us, we were thinking that we were still 11 weeks away from welcoming our first daughter. That evening, my wife went into preterm labor. When she went into preterm labor, she goes into the hospital, and within a matter of minutes, she's fighting for her life. Not only is she fighting for her life, but we are losing our baby. They wheeled my wife, Teresa, into the operating room, and during the duration of 20 minutes, I sat outside of this operating room, watching life from my wife and from my child slip right through my hands. Now, in that moment, having been a preacher, having been a minister, having been one with position, what was I going to draw on in this moment where I wasn't in the element that we would call a comfortable atmosphere of God's power? You see, kneeling on that cold hospital floor, I had to draw to something that really meant something to me. In that moment, I got on my knees. I began to cry out to God. I prayed to him. I asked him if he would bring my wife and my daughter back. Well, my wife flatlined 2 times and my daughter 4 times. But something happened that was miraculous and changed our lives forever. On that cold hospital floor, I bowed down. And when I was going to pray in the way that I knew how before, instead, God shifted me and he said, just worship me. Just worship me and watch my power. So what I did on my knees there is I lifted my hands up to God and I just began to glorify him. I glorified him for the God that he was. I just told him, you are able, you are awesome, you are glorious, you can do anything. God, I worship you. You are a worthy God. Well, that night, my wife didn't die, and neither did my daughter. 3 pounds, 4 ounces. She was in the hospital. But every night we worshiped God. Every night we believed that God would bring her out. My daughter is 7 years old today. Here's what I want to tell you. Worship can do things that other things cannot. Over the last couple of years, my wife and I have had the wonderful privilege of meeting many people and going many places. These places that we've gone, we've seen many miracles. We've seen blind eyes see, deaf ears hear, the lame walk, cancer dissolve, tumors go away, symptoms of strokes go right away from the body, right there before our eyes. In all of this, there is something that connects the miraculous, and that is worship. Before we ever go before God for a healing, before we ever go before God for a miracle, we worship God for who he is. You see, when you worship God, you have access to God. You have a way to get to him and request the things that you need of him, irregardless of the calamity, irregardless to the degree of difficulty. We serve a God of the impossible. So here's my encouragement to you tonight. Whatever you are going through, whatever you need, whatever it is that seems impossible for man, if you can worship God, you will see that. Where you are standing, where you are kneeling, where you are watching this video, I encourage you in the Lord. Worship and watch God move. Worship and watch God heal. Worship and watch God deliver. Worship and experience the awesome power of a living Savior. My name is Mingo Garcia. God bless you. Have a wonderful day.